We often talk about Pentecost as a day when followers of Jesus were able to offer a new message. You heard it in the story in the book of Acts, that the crowd, the people that were around, weren't expecting it. And frankly, the disciples weren't really sure that they knew what they were surprised by their gifts too. This ability, this time to share a new word. Seems appropriate, with this being also being Mental Health Awareness Month, a great day, a great opportunity to combine those ideas and to put our prayers into practice. We've been praying for weeks and weeks and months for our friends and our neighbors, our loved ones that are experiencing mental health issues, but also to change our society, the way that we talk about it and receive it, right? to remove stigma from it. So we're really thrilled to partner with the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Today I was thinking about, what do we say? We've said that our purpose is to love God with our whole selves, our mind, our body, and our spirit. And I feel like this is really one of the ways that we can put that idea into practice. And they've got a whole table of resources, and I love this one. What to say to a person with depression. 6 worst things to say. Depression isn't real, just get over it. You have a mental illness, oh, you must be crazy. I know how you feel. Oh, come on, we all have bad days now and then. Or it's all in your head. Or what I would add to this, the worst one I've heard from churchy people is something along the lines of, oh, well, if you just believed a little stronger or harder or better, then this wouldn't be a problem. Or if you just prayed a little harder or better, you wouldn't have this issue. I would add that to the worst things that you can say, right? So I'm really glad that we can partner with Teena Mackey and her team. Teena is the Executive Director of the National Alliance for Mental Illness, serving Will and Grundy counties. Following a successful career in public service in Parks and Recreation, Teena has been employed for the past 13 years at Cornerstone Services, serving individuals diagnosed with mental illness. She's a licensed facilitator of the Family to Family program, the Mental Health First Aid, and Youth Mental Health First Aid programs, whose goal is to recognize the signs and symptoms of emerging issues associated with mental illness, and to educate the community and reduce the stigma associated with mental illness. So our purposes align in that way. Teena serves on the Will County Board of Health, is an active participant in the Illinois State Board of Education Social and Emotional Learning Task Force. And just a couple years ago, in October of 2020, Teena was presented with the Reverend James E. Allen Award for Service to the Community by Project Acclaim, an award that goes to individuals who had a growing impact on the local community. As you know, our vision is to be an inclusive gathering of found family, to be more like Jesus and serve the community. So we believe that God's Spirit is at work still among us, reaching out to us in myriad ways, and I believe one of those ways is through work like NAMI is doing. So, friends, please join me in welcoming Teena Mackey.
Thank you, Pastor Dave. I'm not used to working with a microphone, but I'm going to give it a try here. So thank you, and we're glad to be here. My colleague Cheryl is here. You're going to meet her in a minute. And we have a couple of volunteers, Jim and Julie, who are passing on a couple of handouts that we'll use in a little bit. So good morning. Again, welcome. I'm so glad that you've given us a few minutes of your time this morning to talk about mental health. We represent NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and Pastor Dave, thanks for that great introduction. I think we could work you into our team to talk a little bit more about mental health. So we're the Will-Grundy affiliate, which means that we provide services for folks who live in Will County and Grundy County. Here in Minooka, you are Will County and Grundy County, and I think even a little bit of Kendall County in a little part of it. So yeah, we're glad to be here today. Our website, NAMIWillGrundy.org. If you have any other questions or want more information about mental health or resources in the community, there's lots and lots of information at that website. Next. So when we think about mental health, we talk myself, we really talk about as individuals, our wellness profile. And when we talk about our wellness profile, we have our physical wellness, our spiritual wellness, and then our mental wellness. Does everybody agree that those components overlap? Like we see on we really can't exist and talk about any one component without considering the effect that each has on the other. So when we talk about our physical wellness, from the time we're very small, we do a pretty good job taking care of ourselves. We sort of know what it takes to be physically well. How many people had a pretty good night's sleep last night? So many of us, not everybody. Who had breakfast this morning, or you're going to leave here and go to breakfast? I don't know the breakfast restaurants in Minooka, but I'm sure they have a couple. So we know that to be physically well, we have to do a few things. We have to get a good night's sleep, and do some things to take care of ourselves. If we're not feeling well spiritually, what are some of the things we might do? Pray? Read Scripture. Come to church. Come to services. Share. Make a connection with our fellow parishioners. Listen to Pastor Dave. Listen to some of the other speakers. Get input. Maybe reach out and make a connection with some folks. We might attend a Bible study or add to our schedule of resources that we attend. So we know how to make ourselves a little bit healthier spiritually, and again, we know that those components affect each other. If we feel well physically and we feel well spiritually, do we feel better mentally? Yeah. If you got up this morning and you're feeling good about going to church, you're happy to see people, you're feeling pretty good. There is such a connection between those components. So let's talk a little bit more about mental health. Cool. So what's mental wellness? We all have mental health. We have some days are better than others. Some of you didn't get as good a night's sleep last night as maybe you'd like, and so you're feeling okay, but maybe not 110%. But we all have mental health. Again, some days are better than others. Being mentally healthy means that we have the ability to implement good daily living skills. We talk about good sleep. We implement a fairly nutritional weekly meal plan. We eat fairly healthy, not always, but the donuts that we're going to have today probably not as healthy, but we do some things that we know we take care of ourselves. We get good rest. We eat well. Sometimes it's nice to get a little daily exercise. I was just saying it's so nice out. I can't wait to get to the bike trail this afternoon and ride my bike a little bit, get a little bit of exercise. And when we talk about our mental well-being, we also want to make sure that we spend time with people who care about us, people who are interested in our best interests. Does it make sense to spend time around people who don't care about us? No, not really. So we want to spend time around people that care about us. So we want to implement those good daily living skills. We are able to engage in work or school productively. When we're there, we're able to get things done. We sometimes even look forward to going to work when we're mentally healthy. And we obtain and maintain satisfying relationships. So our relationships, especially with our family, those are usually our most important relationships. With friends, with our fellow parishioners, neighbors, co-workers. We have good relationships. We know how to be a good friend, and we are able to engage fairly easily. Next. So how do we recognize when we're having a mental health challenge? We know what it's like to be physically healthy, spiritually healthy, and mentally healthy. How do we recognize when things maybe aren't going quite right? The word change is really the most significant word for me. When a person that we know, or a person that we love, a family or friend, or even a coworker or someone that we care about, demonstrates a significant change in the way they think, feel, or behave, sometimes that can be an indication that something's going on. It might be a red flag that something's happening with this person. Now we all have things that happen to us that result in a change in our behavior. Perhaps the loss of a loved one. We might move and see that maybe is a good thing or not such a good thing. We might change jobs. There are things that happen that make us a little anxious. The loss of a loved one would certainly make us sad, or feeling sad. Maybe we want to spend a little more time alone than we would. But when we talk about change that results in our inability or our disability to implement those three benchmark categories, that's when we're talking about maybe a significant change that maybe there's a red flag there. Maybe it's something that we need to seek some support with. So, again, those three benchmark categories: implementing daily living skills, being productive at work and school, and obtaining and maintaining satisfying relationships. If our change in our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors make us unable to be successful in those areas, then that's when we're thinking, maybe we're talking about a situation where we need to get some help, or maybe get some professional support, or at the very least, recognize that there's something happening and make clear to our loved one that we're here. We want to be helpful. We want to be supportive. And then when we talk about that change, when we see changes that occur for more than 2 weeks period of time, that's usually our yardstick. If a person is going through something and it's valid that they're acting differently, sad, maybe isolating, maybe not quite themselves, but when that happens significantly over more than a 2-week period of time, then that's when we want to think, maybe it's time to get some professional support, or at least have a conversation, check in with that individual. So next. So one in five of us will struggle with a mental health condition in any given year. 1 in 5, in many different ways. 50%, and this is a very conservative number, it's a self-reporting number, so 50% of us won't reach out for help. 50% of us won't even tell anybody that we're struggling with it. Why would that be? Embarrassed? Don't want to bother anyone else. When we talk to young people in the schools, the very typical response is, I don't want to be a burden to my family. We don't want to burden others. What else? Go ahead. We don't want to be ridiculed. So next slide, please. Stigma. Right? That big word, that big S word, stigma. Is stigma a positive or negative thing? Negative. Right. And we don't know why. We don't know why stigma occurs. We understand how important our physical, spiritual, and mental health are. We understand the dynamic that connects those. We understand completely how when one's not doing well for us, how the other components can be affected. We acknowledge that they're all important, and when we're not physically well or spiritually well, we know what to do. We know how to reach out. We know how to get support from people who love us. We know that we might have to get professional help. We might have to take some medicine. And yet, when we talk about our mental health, that stigma puts us in a position where often, not only do we not reach out for help, we sometimes don't even tell anybody. And as families, sometimes that becomes a group effort that we're not reaching out for help. But I think stigma, goes even further. It's even more deep-seated for us in our communities. I think we are not well educated about mental health. We just aren't well educated about mental health. Even those of us who might struggle with a mental health condition, sometimes our attitude isn't, I'm just a person that's going to be anxious. I'm just a person that's depressed. My loved one is just a person who has a mental health condition. So we accommodate that. We work around that. We live with it. We learn to live with it. Doesn't mean that we're not frustrated by it, or sad, or sometimes angry, or grieving the loss of the life that we thought a person would have. But sometimes we are just not well educated, and we don't understand that we don't have to live with the symptoms of mental illness standing in the way of us living a happy and productive life. Pastor Dave mentioned I worked for Cornerstone Services for many years. I worked with serious and chronically mentally ill. And with case management, I've seen it time and time and time again. When people reach out for support, and they get the support that they need with therapy or psychiatry or sometimes medication, and we, not unlike our physical health, provide the long-term support that a person needs. People with mental health condition or diagnosis of mental illness live happy, productive lives in the community. The example that we use often is a person diagnosed with diabetes, especially a young person. If a young person is diagnosed with diabetes, they see a doctor, they might see a nutritionist and a dietitian, they'll see a specialist, they'll test your blood every day. There's regular ongoing interventions to make sure that this young person who's managing diabetes is wildly successful and happy and healthy. As families, we clean out the cabinets, we clean out the refrigerator, we change our meal plan, we talk to the school, we tell the nurse that, they have diabetes. Every teacher that walks by this young person says, hey, you're not supposed to be eating that. Our extended family knows. So again, we gather all of our resources to make sure that this young person lives as happy and healthy as possible because of this diabetes. Now, if that same young person is diagnosed with anxiety disorder or depression or paranoid schizophrenia, do we see that same kind of support? No, not only do they not see a psychiatrist right away, maybe you're waiting on a waiting list for 3 months or, God forbid, 6 months. We're not reaching out to the schools. Sometimes the schools are reaching out to us to say, hey, we need to get some support for this young person. But again, it's hard work. We're not well educated. We don't know what we don't know. And so kudos to you folks for letting us come here today and talk a little bit about mental health. The more we get educated, the more aware we are, the closer that we can bring that mental health circumstance to an approach just like our physical and our spiritual health, the better, the happier, more productive we will be, and the better we're able to support our loved ones. And as a community, we'll find ourselves in a healthier circumstance because our members will have the support that they need, and all three of those wellness profile components will have the support that they need, and that will be able to make sure that people aren't standing in the way of a happy, productive life. Okay, next slide. So how do we recognize when we're becoming unwell? That sense of hopelessness, isolation or withdrawal, irritability or anger. You can imagine that if you are a person who's lived your life in a certain way and you have certain habits and likes and dislikes, and then suddenly, for whatever reason, genetics, the environment, a traumatic event, there's a whole litany of reasons that a mental health condition might occur. But something happens where you're feeling like, this isn't me. And I'm not feeling like I'm in quite control of my thoughts. Or I have this sense of hopelessness. I'm sad or depressed, I can't get past it, I don't know why this happened, I don't know why this happened to me, would it be unusual for a person to be irritable and angry about that? No, we would be very angry, right? Again, physically, spiritually, mentally, we want to be in control. We want to be in control of our lives and what's happening to us. So it wouldn't be unusual for a person to be irritable or angry. And then unfortunately, you've heard that expression, self-medicate, self-medication. When people turn to drugs or alcohol, I'm not feeling good, I have no control, I need something. I need some kind of relief from this pain that I'm suffering from. And so turning to drugs and alcohol sometimes, unfortunately. Do drug and alcohol help any situation? No, of course not. So symptoms of anxiety. So just a few things. Anxiety is the most common of the diagnoses, most common and sometimes the least understood. Why do we get anxious? A certain level of anxiety can be good for us. I was standing in the lobby thinking, I'm a little anxious about Pastor Dave was saying awful nice things about me. I don't like to live up to that. It provokes a little bit of anxiety, right? So the most prevalent diagnosis, and sometimes again the least understood, but restlessness, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, irritability, and sometimes sleep disturbances. Too much, too little sleep. And again, when these behaviors are a change from our typical behavior, that's when we want to think, something might be going on here with myself or my loved one or my friend. Go ahead. Symptoms of depression, feeling sad or hopeless again, difficulty sleeping, fatigue or loss of energy, feeling worthless or guilty, that idea that I don't know what I did to feel this way. Somehow I'm bad. Somehow I'm not right. I'm different from others. That stigma that we bring to our thoughts. Decrease or increases in appetite, a loss of pleasure in activities that we once enjoyed. So again, the change in behavior. So when I was a younger person, I enjoyed playing softball. I loved softball. Played a lot of softball. Finally realized when you're old and kind of chubby, it's not so. Softball is not really your sport anymore. So maybe you switch to golf or some other activity that's a little bit more comparable. So not that change where you substitute new things based on your age or interests or other things, but that change where, if I were to quit playing softball, go home and sit down and then never get out of the chair again. That's when you think, something's happening, something's going on here, something's happening, maybe a little bit of red flag. Go ahead. And then I wanted to mention specifically for our young people, because again, when we talk about getting educated about mental health, getting educated about our mental wellness and how to help others, really, where it's at today in our communities is really helping young people get the help they need and helping young people understand what might be happening with their mental wellness. The average onset of anxiety is 10 years old. 10 years old. So young people are feeling it. And the average time between the recognition of emergent signs and symptoms of mental illness and when we get real effective help is 11 years. 11 years. That's how significant the stigma associated with mental health is. 11 years. Last year we said 10 years. So we're going the wrong way. It's 11 years. So you can imagine a 10-year-old who is struggling with feelings of anxiety or symptoms of depression that has gone through much of their childhood, their adolescent years, middle school, high school, sometimes even to college, and they know something's not right with me. I'm different. My friends are enjoying Friday night socials and our dating and have relationships and good relationships with their families and they're successful in school and I'm not. And I'm not telling anybody because I don't want to be a burden to others. So helping our young people and recognizing that something's happening and making sure that we're a good parent, friend, grandparent, aunt, uncle, sibling, and recognizing those early signs and symptoms is really crucial at this point. Really crucial. So I wanted to include this slide that, typical adolescent behavior, many of the symptoms that we've talked about in some ways are typical of our young people, right? I have 4 nieces and nephews, and at some point, any one of them was acting differently from day to day. So, especially the too much sleep, too little sleep. There'd be a weekend where they'll sleep all weekend long, and then another weekend where they hardly are sleeping at all. They're so busy. So it can be very typical adolescent behavior. But again, when a young person says to mom and dad on Friday night, I don't want to go out to dinner with you guys on Friday night anymore. I want to spend time with my friends. Or I don't want to go to Greg's house on Sunday afternoon. I want to spend some time with my friends. Typical adolescent behavior. When they say, I don't want to go to dinner, I don't want to go to grandma's, and they're alone in their room from Friday night and you don't see them until Monday morning, maybe even for meals, and every time you peek in to check on them, they're sleeping, that's not so much typical adolescent behavior. When young people step away from activities that they love, maybe they quit soccer or quit the tennis team or quit going out socially with their friends, and they don't replace that activity with other activities, that's a red flag. That's when we want to start to really get more involved with what's happening with our young person. Okay, so we got a handout. So we recognize that physical, spiritual, mental health, we know that those are important. We're acknowledging that sometimes there's a challenge to our mental health. We are learning to recognize those challenges. So what do? We want to be a good friend. We want to be a good family member. So how do we do that? Well, step 1, I think, is making a connection. Making that connection with our loved one, our family member, our friend, our coworker, our neighbor. And so this is sort of an interesting handout. What are helpful and unhelpful approaches? So helpful things to say. So if you take a second and look at some of these, what is if a person comes to us and says, I don't know what's happening, but I need help. I'm always anxious. I'm always depressed. I'm really struggling. I don't know what to do. And we want to make that connection. Sometimes that means listening non-judgmentally. And that can be very hard, right? As parents, what's our initial reaction? Oh, okay, I'm going to solve this problem for you. I'm going to take care of it. You tell me what's going on and I'm going to take care of it. And with mental health, that's just not the way it works. With mental health, we want to listen, be a good listener, listen non-judgmentally, and then make clear that we do care and make a connection. What's a comment on here that maybe is not so helpful?
Pull yourself together.
Okay. Pull yourself together. Is that very empathetic? No. And you know what? And we do it all the time. My father used to say, you're not feeling good? Go out and start running. And right say you can't run anymore, and you'll feel better. It'll all go away. You'll be so worried about how tired you are from running, you won't have any time to worry about anything else. So is that empathetic? No. Does it minimize the pain that a person is feeling? We sort of make clear that, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. It's such a beautiful day outside. How can you feel so sad? Is that helpful? No. If we tend to respond that way, just you've got your whole life ahead of you. You've got so much going for you. It's a beautiful day. Just go outside and play. Will that person keep coming to us for help? Probably not. Probably not. And again, sometimes the hardest thing we have to do as parents is understand that we might not be the right person for our young person to talk to. So, maybe an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or a teacher or a coach. So, being able to make that connection. We might be a parent who our child's friend comes to us for support. They might not see a support system in their own home as being helpful or valuable. So, is something bothering you? I'm concerned about you. I care about you. I'm concerned about you. Let's talk. I'll listen. I'm happy to listen. I'm here for you. So again, just a few opportunities or a few examples of how it maybe respond or not respond. Okay, so again, we've recognized the importance of mental health and recognize it as a component of a larger wellness profile. We need to learn about identifying and recognizing signs and symptoms of mental health and understand our role, how helpful that we can be. And then Cheryl's going to talk to us a little bit about support and resource services.
Thanks for having us here today. So Teena gave us a lot of great information about mental health and how to support people. We're going to take that a little step further and talk about how to support people in non-emergency situations. So like Teena said, we want to make sure that we're listening to people, right? A lot of times we're listening to respond and not really listening to comprehend. We want to make sure that we're supporting those people, reassuring those people, right? That they're not alone and that they do have people out there that love and care about them. So many times when we go and talk to high schools, the kids say, I didn't reach out for help because I felt like a burden to my family, right? And we know that it's not the case, that we all have people that love and care about us. And you guys are those people for a lot of people in your lives, right? You support a lot of our family and friends. So first we want to make sure that we are good listeners. As Teena said, a lot of us think, we know how to solve problems, we know what's right for people. I often think, if my sister would just put me in charge of her life and consult me for all her decisions, she would be fine. But she's not doing that, and it's not the case. So when she comes to me with a problem, I can say, do you want me to listen? Do you want me to give feedback? Or do you want me to take action? And whatever she says, I really try to stick with it. So sometimes I'm sitting on my hands, I'm biting my lip, but sometimes she just has a lot going on in her head. She needs to get it out, she needs to say it out loud, and that's really helpful for her. So don't underestimate the power of just listening and being with somebody. I can't always fix her problems, but just sitting there, holding her hands, being there with her while she's crying is really, really important and really, really helpful for her. We also have a lot of NAMI support groups that we'll talk about shortly. We also want to make sure that we're helping connect people to services, right? So just like, we seek medical treatment for medical issues, we want to be able to seek those same services for mental health issues. So connecting people to therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, and making it okay for them to seek out treatment. Going with them, not judging people, is really, really important. So we do live in a community where we have lots of great services. One of the new services in our area is the living room. Has anybody heard of the living room program? Okay. The NAMI volunteers, raise their hands. So if you Google living room, you get lots of beautiful pictures of lots of living room sets. But we are talking about a living room program. And this is a place where people can go and talk about their mental health. In this area, we have two that are run by Trinity Services. There's one And these are safe places for people to talk about their mental health. So they're open 24/7, 365. They never close. There's no charge, and there's no insurance. Okay? So a lot of those barriers that prevent people from reaching out to help are kind of solved with that. Everything is confidential, so people can go and talk about what's going on, talk about what's going on in their head, vent about their day, talk about a crisis situation, and really get support from people who understand, some feedback. They talk about coping skills, they connect people to resources. Sometimes people need a nap, so there's places for them to take a nap or spend the night. So it's a really great resource in our community. They're staffed by people who have lived experience. So the staff that are living successfully with a mental health condition or a history of substance use, and they're using those lived experiences to help the people coming in. So that's really important that they connect with them. They've been through similar situations, and they really understand what's going on. We as family members, too, can also utilize living room services. So I could go into the living room and say, this is what's going on with my sister. She just doesn't seem like herself. This is what I've tried. It's not really working. Do I need to get her to a hospital? What else can I do for her? Can I maybe look at the situation from a different angle? And they can sit down and talk with me and give me ideas about that situation. So the living room is really for anyone and everyone over 18 can utilize their services. If you're concerned about someone that looks younger than 18, you could also, the parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles could get feedback about how to help that child as well. So people can't go in person to the living room, but they can also call if they can't get there in person. So this has been really helpful, in the middle of the night, you have something on your mind, nobody else in your house is up, you could call the living room and get some really good support. So we definitely have brochures that are on our table here, so make sure that you check that out. So even if you're sitting here saying, I would never go to the living room, I don't need this resource, it's just a really great resource for all of us to have, because you never know when you may need it for a family member, a friend, a neighbor. And it's important for people in our community to know that there are places and people out there that care and that can help them. So what if it's not a non-emergency situation, right? So we're going to talk about suicide, which can often be a awkward or a tough topic to talk about, but it's definitely important that we get the word out about signs and symptoms of suicide. So what does somebody look like when they are suicidal? They could be desperate, they could be helpless, they could be hopeless, right? They can also have a change in their personality. So you guys know your friends and family. If somebody's usually happy-go-lucky, nothing bothers them, and then all of a sudden they're quiet, they're depressed, they're not acting the same, right? That's a change in their personality. That's a red flag, right? That somebody may need some extra support. Sometimes people could be talking about it. They could be saying, I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to kill myself. I can't take this anymore. Sometimes it's a little less obvious. They could say, I just don't want to wake up tomorrow. I'm a burden. It would be better off if I'm not here. Right? Sometimes people are behaving recklessly. They're driving fast, experimenting with drugs and alcohol. They could be looking up ways to hurt themselves. They could be giving away their possessions. Okay, so all those are kind of signs of suicide. Sometimes they're more obvious, sometimes they're not as obvious. What do we do when somebody is feeling suicidal or we're concerned that they're suicidal? We want to make sure that we, first of all, don't leave that person alone. often describe it as if somebody is feeling suicidal, it's a pot of boiling water at home on your stove, and the flame is on full, and the lid's on, and it's boiling up, it's about to overflow. That's what people describe it's like when they're feeling suicidal, okay? So you can kind of imagine the pressure building, they can't take it anymore. And by asking that question, are you suicidal? Are you feeling like you're going to hurt yourself? It's like taking that lid off the pot, right? So when you take the lid off, it kind of stirs down, it kind of starts to boil down, and people have that release, that somebody is noticing, somebody does care about me, there are other options out there, okay? So asking that question is really important, and if you feel like you can't do it, get them to somebody who can ask that question, okay? People who are suicidal really feel like in that situation that there's no other option, right? That they're in such a bad place, they're feeling so helpless, so hopeless, they are imagining the situation can never get better, and they're using suicide as the solution to their problem. So if we can support them and help them through those situations and show them that there are other options out there, that things can get better, once we kind of get them over that hump, that's really important. Okay? So we can call 911 if it's an emergency situation, right? In this area, we have CIT officers. They are crisis intervention team officers. So what this means is that they've had additional training in mental health, and they're skilled in de-escalation and talking to people about their mental health. So the more information we can give 911, the better, right? If we have a diagnosis, a situation, their symptoms, asking for that CIT officer is always important when we do have to call 911. And it's hard, it's heartbreaking. It's hard for me to call 911 for my sister, but I know that, she needs the help and we need to keep her safe. Another option in our area is calling 988. Does anybody know about 988? Okay. Couple more hands. Awesome. So just like we call 911 for medical emergencies, we can call 988 for mental health emergencies. So again, these people use their lived experiences to help with a mental health situation. They can spend hours on the phone with somebody, and they can also dispatch a mobile crisis team to come out and talk to the person as well. And they come out within 90 minutes. So another great resource. And again, us as family members can call and talk over a situation if you are concerned with somebody, and they can give you more direction on how to handle the situation. So again, 988 is a great resource, and they will talk to kids as young as 13 years old too about their mental health. Okay, so all great resources, and again, making sure that we're staying with that person, and that we're not keeping anything about a mental health crisis or suicide a secret, right? I would rather my friend be upset with me that I, reached out and got him help, and then my friend isn't here anymore. Okay? Suicide is definitely something we want to take serious, making sure that we're checking on our friends and family and making sure that we're taking action on that. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about NAMI and our services. As Teena said, we serve Will and Grundy County, but anybody can receive services from us, regardless of where they live. So everything that we do is free and confidential. Again, there's no insurance, no barriers to reaching out and getting help. We all have some kind of lived experience, so we're either living with a mental health condition or we're supporting a family member So this is a group for people who are living with a mental health condition. Some of the group members will have an actual diagnosis. Some of the members may just be feeling anxious or depressed and wanting to reach out for more help. But it's just a safe place for people to talk about what they're feeling, how their week went, and get feedback from other group members about, problem-solving things going on with them. So again, like Teena said, I can tell my sister something, but it doesn't really have the same effect as if somebody with that lived experience talking about it. So as connection support is going on in one room, we have family support going on in another room at the same location. So family support is for anybody who wants to support a family member. It could be if you're concerned about a neighbor, someone in church, someone at work. And it's just, again, a safe place to talk about what's going on with other families who are going through similar situations. So, in the real world, sometimes people are, judgmental. They don't understand what's going on. So as people are talking about their situation in the support group, people are nodding around the room because they're going through some of their situations and they understand. So it really is a supportive place to be. We also have education classes. So our family class is a 90 class for, again, family members who are learning how to support their loved one with mental health conditions. They go through different topics each week. Everybody gets a big binder full of information. We feed you dinner because we want to take care of you each week as you come to group. So we talk about what are mental health conditions, how the brain is different in somebody living with a mental health condition, communication skills, empathy skills, all the things that you need to really support your family member. And we have Jim and Julie here who have been through our family class, so they're just going to tell you a little bit about their experience.
Good morning. I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. We've got some notes up there. This is the first time we've done this, so I apologize if you refer back to these. We're not as polished as Teena. I'm sure all you have doing this, but we came to NAMI about 9 years ago. Our son Joshua, we've got two sons, Alec and Joshua. Our younger son Joshua was a senior in high school. And Teena talked about behavior changes. He was in marching band, he was in theater, he had the lead in plays, he drama, all the kind of stuff. And then it stopped completely. And he started becoming withdrawn to the point where he became mute. He could not talk, physically could not talk. He would text us, he would write things on a piece of paper, couldn't communicate, he was in a lot of pain. So we wound up getting into an emergency room. He was hospitalized. Nobody uses some hospitalizations, some communication things, but when we first started going through this, we didn't know how to help him. We did not help ourselves. And all of the support out there was up in Belton and Barrington, the western suburbs. We live out this way. And so with work schedules, it was just impossible to get the help that we needed. So a little more than a year ago, my wife, someone suggested her now. And so we started investigating that. We wound up on a Zoom call with Teena because Zoom was starting to be prevalent. And so she had this monthly call where families would get together and just talk and find out what the resources are. Well, we were fortunate or unfortunate, depending on your point of view. We were the only one out of it. Other families didn't make it. So we had Teena all by ourselves for now. And then she listened. And we were able to tell her story. What a relief that was to be able to tell her, Teena, here's what's going on. And she suggested to us family to family that Cheryl talked about. And so we signed up for family class, started March of last year, the 9 weeks. So she told you what it does. We'll talk a little bit about from our perspective of how it helped us. And we went through, and through that family class to today, not only do we still take advantage of the programs that NAMI offers, but now we've become volunteers with NAMI and supported because 99% of the folks at NAMI are volunteers. So we want to go out and help and give back some of that that was given to us. Now, are you able to or no? Okay, she wasn't sure.
So when we started the family class, we had done 2 Zoom calls with Teena, which were really helpful because she made us think about how our loved one was feeling and look at it a little bit differently. And as we went through the family-to-family class, we were working with other families who were going through similar situations, and we were all able to share our stories and to realize that there's 12 other people in this room that are going through similar things and feeling similar to us. It was unbelievable, really. In the world of Facebook and media, where everybody's life is perfect, even if you have really close friends, you don't want to be talking about the situation of your loved one who's struggling and you're struggling over and over. So to be in a room with people who were experiencing similar things, learning about the differences in depression versus anxiety versus schizophrenia, and how it's the chemicals in your brain certainly isn't wanting to feel that way. And for us, coming from work and having a meal, that we didn't have to worry about cooking that night, that was fun as well. The other big thing that NAMI, even from the family, we can support facilitators as well, so we've got some additional training, but knowing that this support is there, our son unfortunately doesn't take part in connections yet. And one of the things that I found out during the family support group was that someone that I know very closely and whose loved one is super involved in NAMI took 5 years to come to a connections group. So instead of thinking, Josh doesn't participate in this, he's never going to participate. That could be something down the road. That's one piece of the puzzle that may really bring a clearer picture for him. And he's doing well. He's able to hold down a job with support once he does live at home, but he's pretty independent. He's doing well, but when he has his hiccups, because he's kind of a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster for him, it's a roller coaster for us. But NAMI has helped to kind of take those huge swings and make it a little bit smoother for me, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So we've learned not only how to help Josh, but how to help ourselves. Things, Teena talked about normal adolescent behavior. Sometimes you look at it and go, where does the line from being a 20-year-old language I can't use in the church to someone who's got mental illness? And you don't know where that line is. But we learned how it doesn't matter. And he does have a mental illness, and let's err on the side of that. And how can we support him? Just our whole attitude, our whole approach has changed a little bit. As we think so much easier for us. I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm guessing that's made things better for him now that we know how to help him better and things. There's always going to be those moments or days, what are you doing from work? It's 8 o'clock. You're supposed to work till 10. Well, I will start, okay. It's not gone, but the impact is less. And we're able to help him better because we can help ourselves better. We understand so much more. So when we're volunteers out there, we get trained to do some of these classes. I'm not a counselor, just a counselor. We don't have any background in that, but we have that lived experience, and hopefully that helps some of us as well.
Thank you. We can go to the next slide. So we're just going to wrap up by talking about self-care. Thank you so much for your attention today. So a lot of times when we talk about self-care, people maybe think of pedicures or manicures or going to the spa, and that is self-care for some people. For some people it sounds terrible, but we want to talk about self-care more in the way of what we have to do for ourselves every day. And you guys have this handout that kind of looks like a wheel here with some areas of self-care. So we know that you've heard the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Or when you're on the airplane, they talk about putting your oxygen mask on before helping other people. And that's really true, that if you're not well and you're stressed out and you're having a hard time, it's hard to support the people around you. So we know that we need to put ourselves first sometimes, right? Sometimes we think of self-care as selfish, right? That how can I possibly do this for myself when there's so many other things that have to be done? Or how can I possibly go out with my friends when my child is really suffering at home, right? But it's okay to put ourselves first sometimes. time. So the wheel has a lot of different areas that we can look at, and we talk about this in the sense of that if I'm saying my family is number one, and saving up for retirement is number two, and my friends are number three, is that really how I'm spending my time? Right? If I'm saying those are my priorities, is that how I'm spending my time? Because we know in today's age we're getting pulled in a million directions. There's lots of people that need us, lots of people that are vying for our attention. But are we able to kind of block out the things that don't matter? Be able to say no to some of the things that don't matter as much, and really make sure that we're spending our time, our attention, our financial resources in those areas that are important for us. So just something to really think about, and maybe there are some adjustments that you need to make in your life to make it more balanced, right? So that you can take care of yourself. And to find those things that work for you, right? That somebody's self-care or somebody's coping skill may be a stressor to somebody else. So to find the things that work for you and make those a priority. And sometimes that, it may not be a whole day or a whole weekend, but trying to fit in things where you can, right? Even if it's 10 minutes, or even if it's taking a friend to the grocery store with you, right? To find ways to make things fun for you. Listening to that favorite song or that favorite sermon when you're in the car, right? Fitting it in where you can. We have somebody who at NAMI says that if you're waiting for, your schedule to be open and everybody to be okay, and there not to be any traffic on the road or line at the grocery store, we're going to be waiting for a long time, right? That we need to find a way to fit into our lives and what's going on now, and not wait for everything to be perfect and everything to be the right time. Usually when we're talking about self-care up here, Teena has a 2-liter pot, and she's talking. She's kind of shaking the pot, and it's getting foamier and foamier as you talk about, you wake up late, and then, your car's not running right, and then you gotta call that your child is sick at school and has to come home, and then there's construction, and that's kind of how we all are as the day goes. So, by the end of the day, when all these stressors have happened to us, do we want to take that lid off that pot, right? We know what's happening. So, yeah, you guys would usually be in the splash zone up here when we take the lid off. So not letting things get to that point, right? Not letting things build up until you have an outburst, until you can't take it anymore, until you have a medical condition because you are so stressed out. So to make sure that we're prioritizing ourselves and taking care of ourselves on a daily basis so we can support others in our lives. So thank you very much for your time. We have lots of great resources out there as you guys head out, and we will be happy to talk to you in further details about everything. Thank you.
On Pentecost, it reminds us that God's Spirit, like the wind, sweeps across the land and calling us, inspiring us to be people of goodness and beauty and truth and health. And it's clear that NAMI and the good folks that we heard from today are partnering with that Spirit to bring healing and wholeness and health to neighbors in need. So thank you very much to Teena and to Cheryl, Jim, and Julie. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Let's say thank you, John.